Yo, hey, it's me, Louie. See what I did there? Marvel. Ever heard of it? 27 movies, 5 shows technically, and oh god, so much money. Let me be clear, I think all of these movies are okay. A 5 out of 10 at the very least. I'm not saying they're bad, or that they're not cinema. I don't really care. But okay, hear me out. After 11 MCU releases in 2021, I now feel confident saying that I am concerned for the direction of this franchise. Is that a hot take? Maybe. Am I being overdramatic? Very likely. Do I feel like being pretentious for a few minutes? Yeah, sure, why not? There's a formula to these movies. Big surprise, I know, I'm breaking some new ground. The first batch of films releases, and they're all very different. Very clear creative visions for each with similar aspects, but overall unique. Then Avengers comes out, makes money, and then Marvel decides to maintain that tone. Make it serious at times, but it can never stray too far. And the same quippy, fast-paced dialogue for every character. I get the appeal of it. It's safe in a way no other franchise is. You know before seeing a single frame, the basic tone, what kind of characters are portrayed, narrative structure, etc. But you know what else you know? Overly edited action. Comic relief placed unnecessarily into emotional moments to make sure the audience remains entertained, the third act with convoluted stakes that are artificially inflated and an oddly desaturated look, etc. With any formula, regardless of how successful, there will always be drawbacks, but with the quantity of content Marvel turns out, it's never been more clear. But you know what? Regardless of my problems, there were still movies that stuck out to me, and hey, Infinity War and Endgame were exactly what someone who had seen every film in the series in theaters since he was 6 years old wanted and more. I was excited. Now that we're back to square one, having to set up the next stage of this Goliath of a franchise that was slowly but surely allowing its filmmakers to leave some level of style, I was excited. And so far, I've been very disappointed. In 2021, there was a certain problem that I'm noticing more than ever. I call it the forced, unnecessary CGI knowingly used problem. Or simply Black Widow I thought was fine until the end where it turned into an animated mess. Shang-Chi was great until the end where it turned into an animated mess, and Eternals was finally doing something different until the end where it turned into an animated mess. You picking up what I'm putting down? Alright. Great. I like large-scale action, but this isn't. Sure, there may be a lot happening, but they're not pushing any boundaries. It's relying on the talent of overworked and rushed artists that we've become desensitized to. Daredevil is small in scale, but you know what? It's single take. Well-choreographed action is still the best in this series. Hell, Daredevil is still the best anything Marvel Studios has produced, even though it's barely part of this franchise, and I'd love to say I'm excited to see it return, but after Kingpin and Hawkeye, I have no faith they can live up to the standard I have for these characters. I said earlier that I'm worried about the direction of this franchise, but that's not completely true. WandaVision started out great, doing something unique, but ended with the same key problem and needless comic relief.
Ralph Boner?
Downplaying the story that the creators desperately wanted to tell. I was very underwhelmed, thinking that the TV format would be treated just like the films. But then Falcon and the Winter Soldier came out, and my mind changed. Sure, it has its problems, but the fact that Marvel was willing to tackle real social issues, which is a large part of their history, and finally let their heroes be vulnerable. The finale wasn't huge, but it felt more impactful than the vast majority of the rest, and it took two sidekicks at best and told a real story about injustice, expectations, and regret. This focus on character was continued in Loki, and the entire finale was a single monologue, and you know what? It worked, because I was invested in the stakes of the decisions being laid out. These series show what Marvel can be, what they could be, and I'm not saying get rid of all the you. It has its place, but let our heroes be vulnerable for more than 2 minutes at a time before equipped. That's all I want. I don't want to gatekeep, but if you can honestly tell me that you are against these kind of moments that let our heroes be challenged, to be heard, and I'm sorry, but you're not actually a fan of this franchise, just the spectacle. Credit where credit's due, No Way Home finally gave me the Spider-Man film I've wanted from this franchise, and finally let Peter go through the loss and the pain necessary for this character. But no one seems to care that they finally told a great Spider-Man story. It was the cameos. And in fairness, I was expecting the film to use these classic characters purely for nostalgia, but I was surprised by how well they were treated and were used appropriately. But I hear about all the references in the next Doctor Strange and I get worried. A multiverse is an endless creative opportunity, but if the most we get is cameos from other franchises, some of which are fucking awful, then I consider that a wasted opportunity, especially from Sam Raimi. I don't like the idea of superheroes being a genre. At most, it's an aesthetic that can be used in any genre, any allegory to tell any number of universal stories, but they just have to try. But honestly, who can blame them? Eternals was only slightly different, and look how the fans reacted to that. Half of what DC puts out isn't great. Martha! Why did you say that now? But you know what? I'm more excited for the Batman than anything Marvel related. But I keep hearing people say that the only way to compete with Marvel is to do a movie with all the Batmans and just No. I want great stories, not Reddit threads with $100 million budgets. So, dear Marvel, I want these movies to get weirder, to embrace the insanity, the madness of these characters, of these icons. When did comic book movies become the standard, a safe bet? Why can I no longer marvel at Marvel? Do some of these Doctor Strange rumors excite me? Sure, I'm not immune, but this is Sam Raimi. We could get a sequel as influential, as impactful as Spider-Man 2, but at this rate we'll get Ready Player One. I hope I'm wrong, I genuinely do, but at this rate I'm losing confidence, losing excitement. We're already 11 projects into this next phase and I still don't care about what's being set up. I'm still gonna keep up to date because they can surprise me, to over rather than underwhelm, but the fatigue, it's sunken in. Thanks for watching, see you sometime.